Welcome to Daily English Dialogues channel, and welcome to the deep dive.
Hi there.
Our mission here is, well, to be your expert guides. We take detailed sources, synthesize the really vital knowledge.
So you can get comprehensive mastery of complex topics and quickly, too.
Exactly. Today, we are immersing ourselves in the language of slumber. It's a linguistic deep dive into, the universal experience of sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Not just what it is, but how we talk about it, how we articulate all its countless nuances in English.
It's really quite something, isn't it? A process that takes up, what, a third of our lives?
A third.
And it's generated such a rich, colorful, and often highly specialized vocabulary.
Right.
And if you're aiming to move beyond just basic conversation, understanding these kinds of subtle distinctions is, well, it's crucial.
So when you hear terms like hitting the hay or maybe burning the midnight oil.
Those are like fluency accelerators. They're the secret codes, you could say, of conversational English.
Absolutely. Think of this deep dive as your shortcut to, let's say, conversational precision.
We've pulled together over 40 essential expressions, core verbs, idioms, all from the source material.
Yeah, everything from grammar guides to travel logs even. Our mission today is basically to decode them all.
To make sure you can discuss deep rest or chronic exhaustion or even professional jet lag with, native level sophistication.
We aren't just reading definitions here.
No, definitely not. We're synthesizing grammar tips, exploring the cultural context.
And showing you exactly how to integrate these more advanced structures into your daily English. Okay, so let's start by building a really rock-solid foundation. We need to look at the basic actions, the ones beginners often mix up. We really need to distinguish between those four fundamental phases of starting sleep. Go to bed, get to bed, go to sleep, and fall asleep.
They sound similar, yeah.
They do, but they actually describe entirely different movements and states.
Precisely. So go to bed and get to bed. Those are about the physical action, right? Moving your body into the bed.
Like I usually go to bed around 11:30 p.m.
Exactly. It refers to the physical location, the start of that downtime ritual. But this immediately brings us to the first critical grammar point.
Ah, yes. The one highlighted by Tutor Nick P. in the sources.
That's the one. The key ESL pitfall.
I see this error, honestly, all the time, and fixing it right away is vital, especially for more advanced learners. So what's the fundamental mistake we need to correct?
The single most common error is misusing the verb sleep itself, using it to mean the action of starting the rest period.
Right.
So a learner might try to translate directly from their own language and say incorrectly something like, I sleep at 11 p.m.
Which just sounds off to a native speaker.
Completely unnatural, yeah.
So to correct that, you absolutely must use one of the preparatory phrases. You need go to sleep or go to bed.
And the distinction you made is key.
Right. Go to bed is the physical act getting onto the mattress.
Yeah.
But go to sleep is more the mental transition actually drifting off.
Perfect. So if you're reading in bed until 1 a.m.
I went to bed maybe at 11 p.m., but I didn't actually go to sleep until 1 a.m.
That's the perfect clarification. So the appropriate use of the simple verb sleep, it's strictly for talking about duration or the state itself.
Like, I usually sleep about 8 hours every night.
Or were you awake? No, I was sleeping. We reserve the verb for the period of rest itself, you see, not the act of starting it.
That distinction just clicks, doesn't it? It's instantly recognizable.
Okay.
Now, let's move from those formal descriptions to the richer, more informal alternatives.
Good idea.
If I want to sound more natural when I say I'm heading off to rest, what are my options?
Oh, you have fantastic variety here, all meaning you're starting that rest period. The most colorful are probably hit the hay or hit the sack.
Ah, the classics.
Yeah, they come from, way back when mattresses were literally sacks filled with straw or hay. Very informal.
If you only use those with friends.
Absolutely. Then, if you're maybe winding up a conversation at the end of the day, you could say, turn in.
Or call it a night.
Yes. Call it a night is especially useful when you're stopping work or maybe some other activity to signal you're heading home or heading to bed.
I find turn in feels a bit more neutral, perhaps. You might use it with coworkers, maybe acquaintances.
I agree with that, whereas hit the sack is definitely more for friends or family.
Understanding that register, that level of formality, it's the difference between sounding fluent and, well, sounding a bit awkward.
Exactly. Now, another vital distinction related to the other end of sleep. The morning routine. That's wake up versus get up.
We touched on this, but let's flesh it out. I often wake up a good 15 minutes before I actually get up. especially if it's cold.
That's the core difference right there. Wake up is the cognitive shift. Your consciousness returns, your brain switches back on, you realize it's morning.
Right.
But get up or get out of bed, that's the physical act, leaving the mattress.
Which allows for really precise descriptions of morning habits.
For instance, even though I woke up early, I spent an hour reading before I actually got up.
That clarity helps massively when you're talking about things like jet lag or just sheer exhaustion.
Definitely. And finally, let's quantify the start of sleep itself. We use fall asleep specifically for the act of entering the sleeping state.
So a common question would be, how long does it normally take you to fall asleep? It's about that transition time, the latency.
And the opposite of that, delaying the whole process, is staying up.
Right. If you stay up late, you're pushing back, going to bed, past what might be called a reasonable hour.
And the language we use here immediately tells people whether we see that delay as, say, intentional fun or maybe necessary work.
Okay, perfect transition.
Yeah.
Let's move smoothly from the action of starting sleep to the quality of sleep itself.
Yeah.
Because this is where English really gets expressive, doesn't it, with all these evocative metaphors.
It really does. We have so many ways to describe either, really profound rest or that agonizing restlessness.
The sources give us that wonderful set of three really common, almost interchangeable idioms for sound sleep.
The trifecta of deep rest, as we called it. Sleep like a log, sleep like a rock, and sleep like a baby.
What's fascinating there, I think, is understanding the maybe subtle differences between those three images.
That's a great question to explore. Why do we use a log and a rock, inanimate objects, and then a baby? Which is, let's face it, sometimes quite noisy.
True.
Well, if you look closely, the log and the rock both emphasize physical immobility and depth.
Okay.
When you sleep like a log, you're sleeping so soundly you're heavy, still completely unresponsive. Like it would take a good shake to wake you.
Same for sleeping like a rock, I imagine.
Exactly. These are often used after really extreme physical exertion, maybe after a long day hiking or moving house, something like that.
So they communicate that deep stillness. And the baby, how is that different?
A baby is different, yeah. While a real baby might wake up often, the idiom sleep like a baby evokes this image of total peace, comfort, innocence.
Wow, I see.
It suggests the person is perfectly content, untroubled. So if I say I slept like a rock, I mean I was just out, immobile. If I say I slept like a baby, it implies I was comfortable, peaceful.
So both mean sound, restful sleep.
But the emphasis shifts slightly. Physical stillness versus mental serenity.
That distinction is gold for a learner. Okay, now let's contrast that deep rest with the language of a troubled night.
Right.
If you're struggling to get that serenity, you might toss and turn.
Toss and turn. It's a wonderfully kinetic phrase, isn't it? It means moving around restlessly while trying to sleep.
Usually because you're worried or in pain or just uncomfortable.
Exactly. And if the night is truly awful, you might say, I didn't sleep a wink.
Not even for a moment.
Not at all. It expresses complete lack of sleep.
And we often describe that state as being wide awake, fully alert, even though it's, 3 a.m. and you desperately wish you weren't.
And the sources gave us that incredibly evocative term for a specific kind of sleeplessness, a white night. This refers to a completely sleepless night, often because of excitement or anxiety, or maybe a really time-consuming task.
And this is where we can bring in that great cultural example.
The chung cake.
Yes, preparing the traditional Vietnamese chung cake for Tet. We noted the process is just so lengthy, so time-consuming.
Hours of soaking, preparing, boiling.
That it can easily result in a white night. And that's such a powerful application of the vocabulary.
It really is. You can tell a whole story. I spent a white night watching the chung cake boil, and by dawn, I was so worn out, completely exhausted, that I was sure I would sleep like a log the next day.
See? That uses multiple advanced terms beautifully. It elevates the conversation beyond just definitions.
Absolutely. It's storytelling. Now, speaking of finally getting to sleep, especially after exhaustion,
We have phrases for falling asleep quickly and deeply, like being out like a light.
I love that phrase. It suggests instantaneousness, doesn't it? Like flipping a switch.
As soon as my head hit the pillow, I was out like a light. No gradual drift, just gone.
And when exhaustion is the main trigger, we often use the informal verbs crash or maybe pass out.
Right.
To crash in this context means to just go to sleep suddenly because you're utterly exhausted, or to fall asleep hard and fast because of that fatigue.
It suggests you were completely dead to the world, maybe? perhaps even fell asleep somewhere unexpected, like on the sofa.
Exactly, rather than having a planned, peaceful rest in bed.
If someone says they crashed last night, I immediately get it. They reached their absolute physical limit. It's great shorthand.
Okay, now let's look at how the language shows us how we prioritize rest versus activity. This is interesting.
Right, we can sort of categorize phrases based on intention. Are you sacrificing rest for work, or are you prioritizing a quick recovery break?
Let's start with the intensive effort idioms, the ones you need when deadlines are looming.
The classic has to be burn the midnight oil.
It really is classic. It evokes that old-fashioned image, working late by candlelight or oil lamp. It just means working or studying late into the night.
And that pairs perfectly with pulling all-nighter, doesn't it?
It does, though there's a slight difference. Burning the midnight oil might mean working until, say, 2 or 3 a.m.
Whereas pulling an all-nighter means
Staying awake the entire night, from evening right through till morning, usually to finish a big project, write a paper, study for an exam. It signals a serious, probably exhausting commitment of time.
okay, now contrast that effort with the goal of recovery.
Right. If you've maybe had a bit too much fun or you're just profoundly tired, you might need to sleep off the effects.
Sleep it off.
Exactly. It means sleeping specifically to recover from the immediate negative effects of something.
I often use this if I have a bad headache or maybe after a huge meal, that food coma feeling.
Precisely. I'm going to go home and try to sleep off this headache.
But sometimes you don't have the luxury of time to fully sleep off a crazy period of work.
Which is why we have such a rich vocabulary for quick resets, short periods of rest, naps.
And this is where precision in conversational English really comes off, knowing which term to use when.
Let's unpack that list of nap synonyms because just listing them isn't that helpful.
Okay, we've got cat nap, 40 winks, get some shut-eye, a snooze, a doze, have a kip, a lie down, and a siesta. That's a lot.
It is. Let's try and categorize them a bit by register and maybe regional use.
Good plan.
Catnap and 40 winks are pretty standard, universally understood. They mean light naps, often quite short, maybe less than half an hour.
Okay.
Get some shut-eye, or maybe catch some Z's. Those are informal ways of saying you need any amount of sleep. Could be a nap, could be a full night. Very common in American English.
Right, got it. And the British variations.
Well, have a kip is notably British and very informal. It means take a short nap or sleep.
So if I use kip outside the UK,
You might get some confused looks, but it sounds perfectly natural in a British context.
good to know. What about a lie down?
A lie down is simply resting horizontally. It could involve a nap, or it could just be relaxing without actually sleeping.
And then specific cultural term, siesta.
The traditional short afternoon nap, right? Especially common in Spain and Latin American countries, usually during the hottest part of the day.
Understanding that regionality and formality is just vital for feeling confident using these.
Absolutely. And the phrase sleep catch a wink also fits here. It specifically means taking a quick, short nap. We saw it used negatively before, didn't sleep a wink, but positively, it's a brief rest.
Okay. And finally, in this section, the really critical intentional sleep idiom, the one related to decision-making. Sleep on it.
Oh, yes, essential, especially in professional interactions.
It's the ultimate way to delay making a commitment while signaling you're being prudent, thoughtful.
Exactly. It means to wait, think about something overnight before making that final decision. The idea is that rest, maybe your subconscious, will bring clarity.
So if you get a big job offer or a complex proposal,
You wouldn't just jump at it. You'd say something like, thank you, this looks detailed. It requires careful consideration. I'll need to sleep on it and give you my answer tomorrow morning.
it's a very professional way to slow things down in a potentially high-pressure situation.
Okay, moving now to the language of the morning. We've gone beyond the basics like wake up and get up.
Two much more colorful ways of describing that waking moment. While functional, those basics lack a bit of personality, don't they?
They do. If you want to sound more casual, you might ask someone, so what time do you usually roll out of bed?
Roll out of bed. I like that. It implies a sort of reluctant, maybe slightly clumsy exit from the sheets.
Highly informal, yeah. And it often signals that the person isn't exactly a natural morning person.
But for those who are early risers, we have much more alert-sounding language,
Like waking up bright and early.
which means waking up early and feeling refreshed, ready to go.
Or the more dramatic one, up at the crack of dawn.
That really emphasizes the timing.
It means you're awake, out of bed, right when the sun rises, maybe even earlier. Very evocative. Suggests purpose or necessity. I had to be up at the crack of dawn to catch that flight.
Okay, let's clarify something that often trips learners up. The difference between intentional late waking and accidental late waking.
Ah, yes. Sleep in versus oversleep.
This is a perfect example of where advanced precision matters.
Absolutely. Sleep in, or you might hear have a lie in British English, means staying in bed later than usual by choice.
It's a treat, right?
Yeah.
Usually for the weekend. I'm gonna sleep in till 10 a.m. this Saturday. It's positive.
Entirely positive. In direct contrast, oversleep is always negative. Always.
Because it's an accident.
It means sleeping longer than you intended to or needed to, often causing you to miss something important like an appointment or be late for work.
If you missed your alarm and were late for that meeting, you overslept.
Exactly. And that brings us neatly to the alarm clock itself. The terminology here is quite specific.
When an alarm goes off,
It means it activates, starts making noise.
and if you're someone who, like me sometimes, delays the inevitable.
You might frequently hit the snooze button, that action of postponing the alarm by just a few minutes.
Usually leading to multiple short bursts of, let's be honest, pretty low-quality sleep.
Huh, indeed. We also use sleep habits to define personalities, don't we? Our chronotypes.
We basically divide the world into the night owl and the early bird, or morning person.
The night owl prefers staying up late, feels most creative or energetic in the evening,
And probably struggles a bit in the morning.
whereas the early bird is the opposite. Active, alert, productive first thing,
This dichotomy is so common, we even have that old folk wisdom attached to it.
early to bed, early to rise, makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise.
These labels allow you to describe your own preferences really easily.
And finally, let's wrap this section with some common conversational phrases, often used around bedtime.
Before kids or partners drift off, we use those gentle goodbyes. Sleep tight.
Which apparently comes from the old days of tightening ropes on bed frames.
Really? I didn't know that. And of course, sweet dreams.
We also have language around intimacy in that space. Pillow talk.
Describing that quiet, intimate chat partners might have while lying in bed, often late at night.
And for children, the ritual of a bedtime story is a huge cultural norm in many places.
Interestingly, adults might borrow that kind of language too, maybe ironically, saying something like, "It's past my bedtime."
Exactly. Using childlike phrasing to express genuine adult exhaustion when it's getting late.
Okay, let's connect all this amazing vocabulary to some more sophisticated applications now.
Good idea.
If you're discussing, say, long-term habits or major disruptions like jet lag or even the emotional toll of not sleeping well, you need some more advanced structures.
Absolutely. For instance, when talking about past sleep habits that aren't true anymore, we rely heavily on the structures used to and would.
Mastering these really shows a learner can handle complex time relationships. It adds significant fluency to their storytelling.
Let's demonstrate the usage clearly because the distinction matters.
Hmm.
We need to separate past states from repeated past actions. Used to generally describes a past state or a habit that continued for some time but is now finished. For example, I used to have a terrible sleeping schedule back in college. That describes a long-term state.
Got it. And would.
Would typically describes a repeated, specific action in the past. For example, when I was traveling constantly for work, I would always set 3 different alarms because I was so paranoid about oversleeping.
Ah, okay. So it's more about specific recurring instances.
Exactly. Both talk about the past, but what often implies a more specific, repeated occurrence within that past time frame.
And you can combine them powerfully in a narrative.
Definitely. Like, I used to be a terrible night owl, and during exam week, I would drink 4 cups of coffee every evening just to keep going.
That's a really fluent sentence structure right there. Uses both perfectly.
Now let's address the mental and emotional side of things. When worry stops you sleeping.
You lose sleep over something. That phrase directly links sleeplessness to anxiety.
We hear it most often in the negative, actually, as a way to kind of minimize or dismiss worry.
Right. I mean, I disagree with their decision, but I'm certainly not going to lose sleep over it.
It communicates that the issue just isn't important enough to warrant that level of anxiety.
We also have that highly metaphorical idiom, sleep with one eye open.
Ooh, yes. That means being constantly alert, vigilant, even while supposedly sleeping.
Usually because you feel you're in danger or maybe just in an unfamiliar, potentially unsafe environment.
A traveler staying in a sketchy hostel might feel they need to sleep with one eye open.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly to the kind of high-level vocabulary needed for discussing major travel disruptions, like jet lag. The sources had some great examples here.
Yes, this situation really forces the use of specific, often higher register verbs and phrases.
First, when exhaustion really hits peak levels, we often use the verb function.
Right. You might hear someone say, my mind just cannot function anymore because of this jet lag.
It's much more descriptive than just saying my mind is tired.
It really is. It implies the brain isn't working properly or efficiently. It suggests a temporary breakdown in capability.
And when we try to fight that inability to function, we often reach for stimulants, right? The source introduced the phrasal verb prop up. What does that convey?
Prop up means to support something, to help it stay upright, often temporarily.
Okay.
So in this context, caffeine can only prop you up for so long. It gives you that temporary boost, that support, but it's not a real solution.
Which leads nicely to another excellent conversational phrase, can only do so much.
Such a useful phrase for expressing limits. The source explains it indicates a boundary to effectiveness.
Caffeine can only do so much against severe jet lag. Eventually, you just need proper restorative sleep. It manages expectations, really.
Precisely. And we have to circle back to the informal verb crash because it's polysemous. It has multiple meanings.
We covered the first meaning, falling asleep hard due to exhaustion. What's the second?
The second meaning, often used by younger people but widely understood, is extremely common. It means to sleep at someone else's house, often unplanned, spontaneously.
Like sleepover.
Kind of, but often more impromptu. If you stay out late with friends, realize you've missed the last train. You might call a friend and ask, hey, is it cool if I crash at your place tonight?
So this usage is purely about finding accommodation, not necessarily about being exhausted.
Exactly. For a learner, recognizing the difference in context between I crashed on their couch last night, meaning I slept there, and I totally crashed after running the marathon, meaning I fell asleep suddenly from exhaustion, is absolutely vital.
Okay, now let's shift focus again, this time to the more clinical or technical side of sleep. This requires real vocabulary precision if you're discussing medical or chronic issues.
Definitely. The primary challenge for many people is insomnia, defined generally as persistent trouble falling asleep or staying asleep.
And if the issue is relatively new, maybe temporary, perhaps caused by recent stress or a big life change.
We might refer to that as transient insomnia. And if someone is continually not getting the rest they need night after night, they become sleep deprived. That's a specific term meaning exhaustion resulting directly from insufficient sleep.
We also need terms for things people do while technically asleep. We mentioned nightmares, but what about physical movement?
Ah, yes. A person who walks or performs other activities while asleep is called a sleepwalker.
And the medical term is somnambulism.
Correct. The action itself is to sleepwalk. It's a condition where the person moves around, sometimes doing quite complex things, but with no conscious memory of it afterwards.
It certainly sounds like a worrying and quite strange condition to witness or experience.
It can be. And on the mental side of sleep disturbances, we have the nightmare, which is simply a bad dream, often one that wakes you up.
And if these dreams are particularly vivid or upsetting or frequent,
we might describe them as disturbing nightmares. Adding that adjective emphasizes the severity.
Now, a much milder but incredibly common challenge is unintentionally falling asleep during the day.
Right, which we call nodding off or dozing off.
This happens when you're sleep deprived and your body just momentarily gives in, maybe in a long meeting or at your desk.
Or in a warm lecture hall. You might just briefly slump forward, then jolt awake a second later, probably feeling quite embarrassed.
So if a learner wants to talk about how they try to stay awake, or conversely, how they try to get to sleep, what are their options? The sources mention both chemical and non-chemical routes.
On the chemical side, for serious issues, doctors might prescribe sedatives. These are quite powerful medicines designed to calm the nervous system and induce sleep or relaxation. Important to note, these are for medical use under supervision.
Okay. And a much milder, widely available option.
That would be melatonin.
Melatonin is fascinating, isn't it? It's a natural hormone our bodies produce to regulate sleep cycles.
But it's also available over the counter as a supplement in many places.
And we learned that people like pilots sometimes use it strategically.
Yes, to help regulate their body clocks and minimize the impact of jet lag when they're constantly crossing time zones.
Now, for those who prefer non-chemical approaches to getting to sleep.
Well, there's the age-old, somewhat ritualistic method of counting sheep.
Imagining sheep jumping over a fence, one by one.
The idea is to occupy the mind with something repetitive and boring, to induce relaxation so you can fall asleep.
Does it actually work?
Results may vary, but scientifically, techniques like gentle stretching before bed or specific breathing techniques are often recommended.
Like the 4-7-8 method you mentioned. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 7, exhale for 8.
Exactly. Things like that are meant to calm the parasympathetic nervous system and prepare the mind and body for rest.
And crucially, if sleep problems become persistent or severe.
The language we use encourages seeking professional help. The standard conversational way to suggest seeing a doctor or specialist is to say, get that checked out.
Right. If you've been dealing with transient insomnia for more than, say, a month, you should probably get that checked out.
Our deep dive is nearly done, but before we wrap up, let's touch on how the language of sleep reflects both our inner worlds, our dreams, and our outer cultural attitudes towards rest itself.
Good point. Dreams are such a universal topic, aren't they? Perfect for casual conversation.
Absolutely. If you want to share an unusual dream, you might start with something simple like, I had the strangest dream last night.
Or, if it was frightening, wow, I had a nightmare that.
We often talk about whether it's possible to interpret dreams or wonder why we sometimes have recurring dreams.
And that mental state of just perfect contentment or happiness is sometimes poetically called dreamland.
Right. Not a physical place, obviously, but a state of mind. Blissful escape.
The cultural perspectives on sleep are also really revealing, showing that while the need for rest is universal, the practice of rest varies wildly around the globe.
This is fantastic contextual knowledge for any advanced English learner trying to navigate different cultures.
We discussed the siesta, that traditional short afternoon rest common in Spain and many Latin countries.
And it's important to understand it's not about laziness. It's often a very practical adaptation to climate, letting people avoid the midday heat and work more comfortably later on.
Then we have the fascinating contrasting Japanese concept of inemori.
Napping in public, or even at your desk at work. And crucially, it's often not seen negatively.
In fact, it can be viewed almost as a badge of honor, a sign of dedication.
In some contexts, yes, it can imply you've worked yourself to the point of exhaustion, showing your commitment. A very different perspective.
And then there's that Nordic tradition, quite surprising to many, of letting babies nap outside, even in the cold.
Bundled up warmly in their prams, of course. The belief, historically, was that it builds stronger immune systems and promotes deeper, higher quality sleep.
And back in a more Western, often corporate context, we have the rise of the power nap.
Highly tactical. These are short, intentional naps, usually 15 to 30 minutes max.
Designed specifically to combat midday fatigue and boost energy and cognitive function.
Without causing that groggy feeling you get from longer naps, purely focused on efficiency and productivity, really.
Understanding these cultural nuances is just so valuable for advanced learners. And to really tie everything together, let's quickly revisit that practical scenario.
The example of describing a time you were incredibly tired, using the specific vocabulary we've mastered today.
The cue card, about preparing the chung kick. It's a perfect example of applying the language.
Exactly. You could start by saying you had a white night because preparing the food was so time-consuming.
Then you were so sleep-deprived afterward.
That you didn't just go to sleep. You completely crashed. You slept like a rock. Maybe you were out like a light.
That single short story effortlessly uses, what, 5 high-level terms?
At least. And it instantly demonstrates real fluency and command over the rich language of sleep. #tag outro.
Wow, what a journey. We have truly navigated the full lexicon of slumber today.
We really have.
Moving all the way from those essential grammar rules, please remember never to say, I sleep at 11 p.m.
Yes, please don't.
All the way to highly advanced idioms like burn the midnight oil, and specific medical terms like transient insomnia, and even somnambulism.
And by mastering these 40-plus expressions, by understanding the nuances of register and context, the difference between having a kip and having a lie down, or sleeping in versus oversleeping.
You're equipping yourself with the tools for much more precise, more evocative communication in English.
These idioms really are like those secret codes we mentioned. They add color, personality, life to your speech. They ensure you can articulate the rhythm of your own life much more effectively.
Absolutely. It strikes me that we often frame rest in negative terms, don't we? Like it's time lost from productivity, something to be minimized.
That's very true.
But our deep dive today shows just how much complexity and nuance our language dedicates to discussing the necessity and the quality of rest.
So perhaps here's a final thought for you, our listeners, to consider. If we start to view rest not as a commodity to be earned back or time to be lost, but as a fundamental regenerative journey.
A necessity for human flourishing.
Then what new language might we need? What words could truly articulate the necessity, maybe even the sanctity of rest? How can we shift the focus from just staying awake longer to truly prioritizing the quality of our repose?
Something profound to sleep on, perhaps. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive.
Thank you.
Now go find some time to practice these fantastic new phrases.